No. It's significantly cooler than that. I wouldn't be in this coat if it was that warm.
So I came here alone.
It's 43 degrees right now.
The world coming over me. Got a way of your own. But I told you that life ain't a fantasy. Now I you every
you know what I say about
that. Turn it up, it's just your way. Rocket fuel runs through your brain. Like I told you on the train. That it's the only thing she knows.
That's ridiculous.
The only thing she knows. The only thing she knows. That it's the only thing she knows. She knows. So it started to rain. Met a woman with eyes like a hurricane. Told her she was the one. And she looked at the moon, calling me insane. Now I watch you every day. Turn it up, it's just your way. Rocket fuel runs through your brain. Like I told you on the train. Well, it's the only thing she knows. The only thing she knows. The only thing she knows. That it's the only thing she knows. Got up on the wrong side and I'm getting burned again.
Yep. Shaka when the walls fell.
And there we go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? How's it going? It's another Wednesday night here at AstroWorld. What's going on, everybody? How's it going, guys? How was your weekend? You get through that nice snowstorm and all that? You get through all that?
Oh, we got through it, but it sucks. It ain't melting.
No, it ain't going nowhere. I mean, I could literally go up to my knee in some spots. You know, we got about 12 to 14 inches in Lake Grove, New York. Not good.
Yeah. And did you get ice on top of it?
Oh yeah. It's gotten that nice sheen. My dog Pepper was able to kind of ice skate this morning. He did. You ever see when Bambi meets Godzilla? You ever see that cartoon?
No.
No.
I don't think so.
I can literally walk. I can literally walk on top.
All right, so when you just if you watch the end of Bambi meets Godzilla, it's how Bambi looked. That's how my dog looked. All four legs splayed out like this. You know, it's just it's a 1 minute and 27-second cartoon. If you ever get a chance, go watch it. You'll laugh your ass off. But anyway.
Oh wow.
And I digress. So how's it going, everybody? We're here. We're going to be talking about camera types, different types of cameras, some specs. We're going to be running down those with some camera differences. We're still trying. Hey, man, this is like 5 shows in. We're like almost on we're on a roll as far as topics and staying on target and all that. So I mean, that's trying. You know, it's definitely good. We're running out of notes. I think we got one more show, and then we got to have another brainstorming session. And then maybe we could do the whole month this time instead of 3 weeks. We'll do the whole month, and then whatever. So, because then we got Astropalooza coming up on the 28th. We also have Steve Malia wants to come on and hang out with us on the 12th, I think, just to hang out, not for anything. So right now we have Masters of Pix Insight minus Warren Keller. He's going to be away. Wilfredo is going to be doing a presentation. Steve Malia is going to be doing a presentation. Dwarf Lab is going to be on. Wayne Parker will be there. And we're waiting on some more answers. I'm trying to get Guido, and we already got a no from Sarah. She's not going to be around.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think Francisco might do something. I don't know, but we'll see. Maybe he's in the chat. Maybe he'll answer. I don't know if he'll do something. But we want to get some more vendors out there, so we're definitely trying to get that all together. And it's already running late. We got 1 month from today, I believe. 1 month from today is going to be a thing. And if anybody's so inclined to watch me, I believe I'm going to be doing a talk on the 27th, the day before, at the Hamptons Observatory in Southampton. And I believe that's being streamed on YouTube at their Hamptons Observatory on YouTube. So if you want to check that out on Friday night at 6 o'clock, I will be on that. So anyway, what else is going on? How's everybody doing? How's life?
Life is good.
Life is good.
Life is good. So can't complain. I just can't complain. Everything is awesome, I guess.
Oh, okay. There you go. I'm just trying to move things around a little bit, so I could, kind of watch the Islander game and do the show at the same time. It's kind of difficult. So
whatever.
I hope your Islanders are doing better than Mike Cappa.
Let's see. Well, it's 2-1. We'll see what happens. But so, I mean, we could just get started right off the bat since anybody's got. Well, what about picture of the year, Eric? That's my question. What are we doing? When are we doing?
that? When are we doing that?
Because everyone's asking for calendars now. they're like, well,
Okay.
we're only getting 10 months now, and
Yeah, I know. It's just been crazy. We will talk about that. We'll get everything squared away.
Okay, cool. We'll do that at our next brainstorming session on next Monday. How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
Beautiful. All right, so today, I know we had a slight change in what we were going to talk about as far as who's doing what camera. So I believe Dave is going to be talking a little bit about planetary cameras. Scott will be doing guide cameras. Eric will be cooled and uncooled. And I'll be doing a slight gloss-over of the major specs on some cameras that you want to kind of take a look into. So I you know what? Hold on a second. Hold on. I promised I was going to do this, right? Give me a second. Give me a second here. Where is it? Oh no, of course now I can't find it. Oh, there they are. Haha. This is my D&D dice bag of holding here. And if I can find the dice that nobody ever wants to roll here, which is here it is. The 4-sided die, right? All right. So
the caltrop.
We'll go across the top. We'll do, me, Eric, Scott, and Dave, number 4. All right. So the person going first is 4. That would be Dave.
Mr. Dave.
Be me.
So Dave, you are up with some guide cameras.
No, planetary.
Oh, planetary. My bad. Planetary cameras.
So, I don't do a lot of planetary camera action. I know Wilfredo does and some of the other people out there do, but I do know a little bit about them and what are the good things and what are the bad things. The key with planetary cameras, first and foremost, is obviously something that has a relatively high frame, because you're taking planetary, you're basically shooting video. So you want something that has a relatively high frame rate, 40 to 60 frames a second, that kind of stuff. There are a lot of different cameras out there. Some of them are like, the 585, the 167, or 678. I mean, the 178. The Player One, Uranus, and Saturn
Hey,
cameras are
I'm sorry,
good.
not Dave, not for nothing, but we only got one person watching, and it's me.
No, that can't.
No, we got people in here.
There's a bunch of people in the chat.
I see no chat, and I see nothing.
I see the chat, and I see 23 people watching.
Oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Me too.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm looking at it, and I got nothing in the chat. I got nothing. And let me get out of this. Oh, I know.
Anyway, while he's trying to figure that out, obviously they come in many ranges and prices as well. So for your budget cameras, the ASI 715 MC or the 122 MC, they're going to be a little less costly. You got, if you go monochrome, you're going to end up spending more because you're going to have to deal with filters. You have cameras like the 178 mono. You have, the 585 makes a mono sensor. 174 is a very popular camera, especially for solar. For planetary, I don't know how well it would work because it's got larger pixels. When you're doing planetary, smaller pixels makes a difference. You're going to be able to resolve more resolution and everything like that. Where solar and lunar, you can get away with the larger pixels because of how bright and how close. But when you're reaching out for Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the smaller pixel cameras are obviously going to serve you better. There are a lot of really good cameras out there that do have small pixels. Another thing that you might want to think about is if you can get a camera that has a global shutter as opposed to a rolling, because that will help you be able to resolve a lot of things a lot clearer by it helps with atmospheric distortion and stuff like that. If your shutter is on off, not rolling down the columns like a rolling shutter does. But if that being said, anything global shutter wise, you're going to spend quite a bit more. And there's the 174 is a global shutter. Obviously, for lunar and solar, I mean, a lot of people use that. I have one. If I ever decide I'm going to do lunar or solar, then I would, at least I have that camera to do it. Now it's a mono, so I'm going to have to use my filter reel and everything like that. But there are some other ones out there. You have QHY makes the what's it called? The
5.3
511 or is it 5.3 568 color?
Yep.
And that is a global shutter. It is very small pixels. I think 2 something micron pixels, 2.74 micron pixels. It is a global shutter camera, and it shoots at a pretty good frame rate. The downside is, that's a $430 camera.
Yep.
But that's probably one of the best cameras you're going to be able to get for doing, planets like Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, because of all the options you have. It's got, pretty good, noise factors and all that, full well depth. I mean, it's a pretty good camera from what I'm seeing. There are other options out there. The 183 color, you're shooting. It does a very high frame rate. It's got very small pixel size. And as long, and pretty sure most of these cameras you can use region of interest on it. So, that even is going to help your frame rates and everything like that. So, there's a lot of different ones out there. The key is find something that has high frame rate, good quantum efficiency, and, something that, you're within your budget. Ideally, when you're doing planets like Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, color is probably the best way to go. You don't have to deal with, a filter wheel and everything like that. And if you're doing, lunar and solar, then mono is probably the best way to go, because then you can use the appropriate filters you want to use, to bring out some of the more details that you can get from the moon and everything like that. Other than that, and just not for nothing, I will, segue this towards a lot of these cameras are probably cameras that a lot of us already have, because a lot of these cameras are equally good at guiding. So I will segue from that to the guide.
Okay. So no roll of the dice this time. We'll just go right to Scott.
Oh, right ahead, Scott.
There you go. So, Mr. Scott, the smoking Scott, we'll call him. We'll say.
Yeah.
And let's get this going. Here we go. So, go to Scott. We'll go to Scott. All right, Scott. Tell us a little bit about guide cameras.
Well, as far as guide cameras are concerned, it's one of those things that. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Oh, that's your dog.
that's my dog.
Okay. So yeah, the guide cameras are one of those things that if you're getting into astrophotography where you are taking pictures that are beyond 30-second exposures, unless you've got a really, really good mount that is going to allow you to basically photograph unguided, you're going to rely on cameras, guide cameras that utilize things like PhD2 and other guiding software to send pulses. So the camera will basically lock onto a star and send a pulse to the through that software to your mount, and it will tell the mount, okay, kick this way, kick that way, kick up, kick down, so that it can stay tracked on a star. That's the whole purpose behind having a guide camera. Is so that when you do take pictures, your stars remain nice and sharp and round. The only way that you can really do that is either with a really, really good mount. When I say a really good mount, 5 figures, or you're relying on a camera. So they're the guide cameras basically, you need something that is going to have decent sensitivity. It's gonna be reliable as far as feedback and so on and so forth, and good resolution. Doesn't have to be super high resolution, but decent resolution. What matters most is, of course, sensitivity. You want to make sure that you've got a good lock on your star, and you're going to get that with good sensitivity. There's other things like read noise, that helps with your exposures and such, you're also going to be looking at things like shutters. Is it a global shutter? Is it a rolling shutter? That's not always critical, but it's a bonus. As far as having a global shutter, and then pixel size, the practical range. You want something that's it's big enough but not too big, and that can basically detect the stars accurately. So it's kind of it's kind of a trade-off, you know, on that. You don't want something that's so big that you know, your stars are going to jump all over the place, you know, and especially when you're dealing in long focal lengths. So let's see. Oh yeah, frame rate. Frame rate on a guide camera is not as crucial as it is on, you know, for shooting planetary, but you want something that, you know, will accommodate between a half a second all the way up to 2 seconds, thereabouts. That's kind of a sweet spot. And that camera should also be reliable. You know, it should be tried and true, tested. You know, it should have you know, a history of reliability, a workhorse, because you're basically, you know, you're relying on that camera to keep your telescope mount locked on your target and to deliver, because you don't want to, you know, spend, you know, 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours in a night and come out and find out that you've got star trails, you know, because your guiding you know, sucks, and that is the first line of defense on that is a decent camera. So but there are also there are a couple of ways that you can look at guiding. What a lot of people do is they'll have a main OTA, you know, a main optical tube assembly, something that their imaging camera that they're using for their target acquisition, and then on top of that, they'll have another smaller scope that they use to lock onto the star. You know, you know, typically you know, an 80 millimeter, 60 to 80 millimeter scope, something in that range, and that is running a camera on it. All right, and that's sitting on top of the scope. You know, it's a guide scope. But then you also have a secondary system that is called an OAG, which is an off-axis guider, and that is a system that is built into the imaging train, you know, of your imaging telescope. You know, the main imaging train. So basically, what happens is that the light comes in through the main scope and then is directed with a prism at a right angle to shoot up into the guide camera. There are advantages and disadvantages to that. A lot of times with OAGs, you run into problems with telescopes where there is a tremendously long focal length. I have that particular problem, you know, because what happens is that, you know, unless you have a very large prism, you know, and a very sensitive camera, it can make it very challenging to find a particular guide star because your field of view is so tight, right? So it can be challenging on certain objects to find a decent guide star. You can mitigate that by having an OAG that has a large prism, you know, 10 millimeter, you know, or larger, and a very sensitive and larger sensor guide camera. You know, the downside on that is that those kinds of additions are gonna jack the price. You know, you're instead of 100 to 150 for a camera, you're looking at 500. You know, for a camera. You know, an OAG can run, you know, hundreds or, you know, even over $1,000. You know, for a decent OAG. So there are trade-offs, and it really depends on, you know, how you want to approach it. In my instance, because I run the my imaging rig from both the front of the telescope and the back of the telescope, I have both you know, guiding systems. I got the OAG and I have the guide scope as well. So I have both of those working. The guide scope definitely is easier to set up. You know, it's more forgiving. It's got a larger star field, so it's gonna you know, find a guide star or a group of guide stars much easier than an OAG will. The big problem with the guide scope is that, you know, you have the potential for flexure, you know, and where the scope doesn't, you know, the two scopes don't stay perfectly aligned all the time, and that can be a problem. You know, so there are ways around that. You know, there are systems that will help, mitigate that. But that is an issue. Off-axis guider, obviously fixes the flexor issue because it's coming straight through your imaging train. So, but again, it is harder to find those guide stars, especially when you're shooting at lengths like what I am at. With at the back of the scope, I'm thinking I think I'm shooting at 37 millimeter. 2730. 2,730 millimeter, which is a long way in. So let's see. What's next? Typical guide exposures. Okay. Most setups, half a second to 1 second, maybe as much as 2 seconds, 2, maybe even 3, depending. The gain on your particular guide scope is also important. You want enough gain, so that you can see the stars, consistently, but not too much that the whole field turns into glitter and noise. You don't want that either. So again, it's finding that sweet spot. Binning, is another thing that you can do, especially if you're dealing with an OAG. You can bin your guide camera if it gives you the option to bin it. 2x2, and that can help. With the detectability, of the stars. There's another thing that we've been playing around with that I haven't had a chance to really have any hands-on with it yet, but I'm hoping that it will work with the focal reducer that you can screw onto the end of your OAG, and that might also help with detectability. I'm probably going to be messing around with that, as we get closer into the springtime. I have a little focal reducer that does screw onto the end of my 174 Mini. So, but that's again, that's another little trick that you can try. Excuse me. Let's see. Okay, so the common failure modes, right? Guide graph, is a mess. You've got either seeing problems or you've got wind problems. Wind is definitely a much bigger issue with a larger OTA. With the the big refractor and reflector telescopes. That can be a big problem with the wind pushing things around. Typically, I don't even try to image if I've got wind speeds anything more than 8 to 10 miles an hour. I don't even bother. It's never going to work. So, the other thing is bad balance. And even things like cable drag, can also be a big problem. In dealing with issues with the guide camera. Sometimes you can't find stars. The OAG, the prism, is not set right in the image train. Sometimes it's too far in, sometimes it's too far out. And you can wind up limiting your field of view, which can that's just adding to the problem. You don't want to do that. Let's see, the other problem that people have, especially with OAGs, is that they try to use cameras that aren't sensitive enough, or they've got little tiny sensors. If you're going to use an OAG, you want to get the most sensitive and biggest sensor you can afford without winding up in divorce court. So don't scrimp on that, especially if you're going to go with an OAG. So what happens if you're dealing with elongated stars? The guiding looks good, but you've got elongated stars, right? There can be a problem with flexure at that point. There could also be backlash issues. You could have, a poor alignment. The camera isn't always the villain, right? So make sure that you're dealing with rock solid mounting of your chosen guide, either be it a guide scope or an OAG. Make sure that everything is locked in tight. Let's see. So, the guide cameras, are about consistency. It's not about glamour, And as Dave said, a lot of times you can mix and match your guide camera with your planetary camera. Like the camera that I use for my OAG it's a very good, ZWO. It's the 174 mini. And that camera, you can use that for planetary. I mean, it's got a very high frame rate. You can use it for that. So it can double, in multi-purpose use, which is nice. I mean, why buy a second camera if you don't need it, right? So, and I guess that's probably about it on the guide camera. And were there any questions popping up in the chat? Probably not.
No, everybody's just wondering if Tom Peter has a plow on his Corvette. I think that's that's what I see in the chat. It doesn't look like anybody. Hey, people are hanging out, but they're not kind of, they're just hanging out listening. I think they like, we got like a little ASMR kind of thing going on with the voices now, because there's not a lot of over talking. I'm gonna start.
We may have also be preaching to the choir in a lot of our audience. So
yeah, that is true. That is true. We could be doing that, but it's good to go back, to go back to the basics. And sometimes you forget what you've learned, right? So maybe we just do it because that's the way we know how to do it, right? so
right. And to Scott's point, and what I said earlier is, a lot of us do deep sky and stuff like that. Obviously, Wilfredo does a lot of planetary and solar.
Yep.
And there's a couple other people. I think Duke, he does a lot of planetary. But if you're interested in doing planetary, don't go out and start looking for a new camera. You probably have one on your rig already. Your guide camera.
Yep.
Yeah.
So play with that. See what you can get with it. Mess around with that. If you get good results, then that's great. If not, maybe you upgrade to a dedicated, really good planetary camera, and then you might find out, well, this thing works great as a guide camera, even better than the one I was using. I think my 174 mono. Best guide camera I have.
A nice big chip too.
Unfortunately, the only downside is it's got big pixels. So when I'm using my smaller rig, I want a guide camera with smaller pixels.
Yeah, it'll make movements more quicker at that point.
Yeah.
But there was a good.
Will was asking.
Yeah, go ahead.
Will was asking, can you use a filter like a red or a UV filter on a guide camera to help? A lot of people have asked this question,
I use
I would say
luminance filter.
Ooh. Yeah, because especially like even a red filter, I mean, you're filtering out a lot of that extra sky glow and everything, and you're really getting those stars. You're really locking in those stars, and you're getting them tighter, so you can focus on them better. So yeah, I mean,
I'll tell you some of the best guiding I got in New York was using, and I still have this filter, this little crappy Meade 4000 red planetary filter, and I got some of the best guiding I ever had in New York. And what it does is, to Eric's point,
do you still use it?
What? I don't.
You still use it?
I wish I did imaging in New York, because, yes, I still use it. I still use it. When I get my scope hooked up, I will still use it on my Evo guide. I will still use it, and I've gotten some of the best guiding I ever had with the red filter. It's a, well, at the time it was I think I bought it for $7.95 when I bought it originally, and it worked great. It knocks down that halo and tightens up that star a little bit.
And a lot of that's because of the UV. I mean, because the infrared.
Yeah, the IR.
So if it doesn't have an IR cut filter, you want something that'll cut that IR.
Yep.
You get rid of those halos around that blooming.
Yep.
They call it bloom around the stars. So I just use a cheap luminance filter, and it acts as a UV IR cut. And it takes it the way that.
Yeah, as long as you got the UV IR kind of shut off, you'll be fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the basic kind of thing. But red, UV IR cut. I've never used a luminance filter, but I'm guessing you could. But yeah, you could use.
Well, I mean, I guess luminance filters have that UV-IR cut.
They do. They cut it kind of off at the end. Let's see. I see some other stuff. Yeah, the player one, the UV filter. You can use that as well. They make that in 1 1/4 inch.
Yeah, and they typically just thread right on those little cameras.
Yep, exactly.
Right on the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a good filter is only as good as its coating, right, Jose?
Can you thread the filter onto the camera and then thread the extension onto the filter?
Can you?
No,
I wouldn't do that.
Not typically. Not typically.
Yeah, it depends.
So you got to thread it. You got to thread it onto the
mount on the filter.
You got to thread it. The filter.
People
it has to go onto the front of the extension.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have the nose piece and then the filter.
Got it.
Yeah. You never really I mean, just best practice. You never want to have a filter then something hang off the filter. Just from best practice, you know. You don't want to do that.
Well, yeah. I mean, on a big camera, I can see that for sure. But I wasn't thinking it would even be a problem.
Some cheaper filters don't even have threads on the other side. And if they do have threads on the other side, sometimes they bottom out on the filter if they're really cheap. So yeah, I wouldn't do that. That I wouldn't do. But I cut mine down from 1.5 to 0.5. What? And it made a good improvement. Yeah, it'll definitely do that. So pretty cool. I still don't want to be so fast you chase seeing. Yeah, you definitely don't. You don't want to be doing that at all. Harmonic mounts in general don't like longer exposures, as far as guiding is concerned. They don't like them. They like to know and make those corrections like that. So most harmonic mounts that I've seen and spoken to and used, whether that's the Wave, whether that's the Pegasus, whether that's the Rainbow Astro, whether, any of these harmonic mounts love sub 1 second exposures. If not a half a second. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I never go more than 1.
Yeah, I think I'm at 0.5 on mine, on both my harmonic mounts. I don't think I use anything but that. So, yeah, good point. Was it Burn Astro? Yeah, good point. Yeah, don't something with guiding and something we talk about a lot, right, guys? We talk about this a lot when we're together, and don't get all hung up on graph and numbers and all that kind of stuff, because you could really get into the weeds, and you know what's going to happen? It's
unnecessary.
You're going to be like Shaka when the walls fell. And then I'm telling you, you're going to get in there and it's going to be a mess, and you're going to just be miserable and fail. I mean, that's exactly what's going to happen. And it's not worth it. It's not worth it. If your stars are good at whatever time you're exposing at, don't worry about it. And if it's a little off, and I hate to say this because I'm more about, getting things right before we add in software, but if things are a little screwed up, a little blur exterminator might be your best friend. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Around, don't worry about it.
No. I can't believe we're saying that these days. Jeez. Anyway. All right, so we got 2 more subjects, and it's 8:45, so we're right on track for about a 9:20, 9:25 plus ending 9:30. We're right on track here. Do we want to roll? I don't have a 2-sided die, Eric. I don't know,
so. That's all good, because I've got I've got a little bit of a presentation, so mine may be a little long-winded. So
all right, then you go. Go ahead. Knock yourself out.
Okay. All right. You sure?
Yeah. I got plenty of dice. Okay. I got my red 20-sided. I got, I could just roll these all night.
All right.
All right.
So let me.
So Eric's going to be talking about some differences between cooled and uncooled cameras, and looks like he's got a little bit of a surprise for us on his computer. So he's going to be sharing his screen, and we will take it
Does it
from
show
there.
up?
It does, and let's make Leon larger here.
Okay.
And there we go. You are good to go.
All right, cool. Thanks, brother.
Look
All
at
right,
you. You got
so,
a nice
yeah,
PowerPoint and everything. Jeez.
Yeah, nice PowerPoint and all that stuff. So yeah, we're gonna, we're gonna talk about cooled versus uncooled cameras here. And really what you should consider and stuff like that. And the why, on certain things behind, like, say, cooling. And when it comes to cooled cameras, it's about signal versus noise, or your SNR. With a cooled camera, the thing we have to think about with it when it comes to cameras and doing long exposure imaging, anything like that, that heat generates electrons. Okay, and those electrons on your sensor, just like light does. So a cooled camera reduces this false signal. And so a good rule of thumb is that for every 6 degrees you drop in sensor temperature, you roughly have that dark current, okay, that thermal noise. And another thing about cooled cameras, that is something to consider, is consistency is king. Cooling isn't just about low temperatures; it's about regulated temperature. Now, when you're having a cooled camera, this allows you, especially with deep sky imaging, it allows you to build dark libraries, such as a set of darks at -10 degrees Celsius that you can reuse over and over for months, rather than taking darks every single night when as the temperature shifts. So let's look at some pros and cons between the two as far as cooled and uncooled. Noise level. Noise is extremely low, and is really good for ideal exposures on a cooled camera, whereas with an uncooled camera, they're higher because the sensor warms up, as the temperature increases. So that's one. Calibration is much easier. You set the temperature and you build your dark libraries, and that's it. It's more difficult when you're using a uncooled camera because you have to match that ambient temperature just right. Cost Cost is more when it comes to a cold camera because you have the tech cooling hardware in the ceiling and things like that, versus a uncooled camera, which are very good or maybe for entry points for beginners. Weight, weight they are bulky. Cool cameras are bulkier and they require power. They require 12-volt power. A uncooled camera is very small, little puck cameras, and they're only powered by USB. The best use for a cooled camera is DSO, or deep sky imaging, and doing narrowband imaging, versus an uncooled camera where you're doing planetary, lunar, solar, or EAA when you're doing really short subs. So when would you want to choose one or the other? Now, there is that was what they call the deep sky rule. So if you're chasing or working on faint nebulae galaxies, especially if you're using narrowband filters, the cooled camera is almost mandatory and the way to go to keep your noise floor low, below that faint signal. If you're doing lucky imaging, like for planetary or lunar work where your exposures are really short, we're talking like in milliseconds, that thermal noise doesn't have time to build up. It doesn't really matter. So this is what makes uncooled cameras like the Player One Uranus C um, perfect, and it's more cost effective when you're using it for those types of targets. Now, another thing is the climate factor. During the summertime, you have, depending on where you are, you have humidity and heat in the summer. An uncooled camera can easily start climbing up their temperature during a session. So cooling is definitely the game changer, compared, doing that using a cool camera versus, you having to use that smaller camera at the North Pole. 'cause that's the only way you're gonna keep the current down, the noise down rather. So a few things to think about is the low dark current of modern cameras, modern CMOSs like the 533 and the 571, making cooling obsolete. Quick answer is no, but it does make uncooled versions of those sensors more viable for beginners. So when you think about the more popular sensors that are out there, like the IMX 533 or the 571 that's found in the Poseidon, Player One Poseidon, they have really low dark current. So that's almost so low that um, people think maybe that cooling isn't really necessary. However, if you're doing EAA or electronic assisted astronomy or lucky imaging, the read noise is the dominant factor, not thermal noise. So in these cases, you can get away with an uncooled camera and still get really great results. Now, in my area, Mansfield, um, in Georgia, thermal noise is, especially during the summer, it's crazy. So really hot summer night, we're talking, 80 degrees, 80, 90 degrees and up. An uncooled sensor, it's going to start to go crazy as far as its temperature, the low noise. It's going to start, the electrons are really going to start cooking in this thing. So you really don't want to go that route when it comes to an uncooled camera. So cooling, remember, like I said, cooling isn't just about reaching the lowest temperature. It's about repeatable calibration. So if you can't set it to that temperature, like you can with a dark, you can't set that temperature, your dark frames won't match your light frames perfectly. So there you go as far as that. Now, there's also questions of power. And maybe if you are someone like me or, Dan, who has, a permanent setup like in Texas, or me imaging from my backyard, if you're not traveling, this may not be applicable, but it's something to think about. With a cooled camera, it can pull about 2 to 4 amps, right? When it's running at, a pretty decent click, 80 to 90% power. But if you are out in the field at a deep sky site and you're using a battery, that could affect your imaging time. But like someone like me who just images from the backyard and you got your permanent setup, if you have dedicated power, you can just pretty much set it and forget it. So the question is it better to cool less aggressively or to save power? Now, many people suggest it's cooling just 5 degrees Celsius or -10 rather versus -20. The difference in the noise is negligible, but the power savings is massive. So think about that if you're using a battery and you're going out there to the field, and you're making that decision on how much you want to cool that camera down. So also with cool cameras is the talk of amp glow. Now, modern sensors have reduced amp glow, but is this but we have to think about, does this really, as far as cooling, help manage the remaining artifacts during calibration? Now, some, talking to our beginners, they think amp glow is that purple starburst, in the corner, and then they think that may be a heat problem that cooling can fix. It doesn't. Amp glow is actually just infrared light that's emitted by the readout electronics on the sensor during long exposure. So what's the fix? The newer sensors that are out now, like the 533 and the 571 and the 585, that have zero amp glow circuitry that physically turns off those electrons during an exposure. So we can even think about or discuss, even with amp glow sensors, cooling still does matter because you have hot pixels to deal with. Now, what these are your physical defects in the sensor that stay on regardless of the electronics. So cooling calms these pixels down, making them easier to remove during stacking. Now, when is uncooled actually better? Size, when you're thinking about the size of your kit and what you're moving around. So without that cooling hardware, these cameras are about half the size and they're a heck of a lot lighter. There's basically little puck cameras and make them really nice for grab and go or EAA or or when mount capacity is kind of at a premium. They're a lot more simplistic. You don't have to worry about 12-volt power bricks. You can run them right off the USB 3 cables, which makes cable management a lot easier too. Lucky Imaging. Um, these uncooled cameras are the king of lucky imaging. Since you aren't doing these really long exposures of faint nebula, you don't need to fight the thermal noise. So when you're doing lunar or planets or even solar, these cameras are really, really good because they can shoot at high frame rates without the worry of the sensor overheat. Now, there's also in certain cameras, there's also things such as passive cooling. Now, with the one that I'm showing here, the Saturn M, and a lot of Player One cameras, they have this unique honeycomb body design, which is designed to radiate some heat away, helping it, stay a little bit cooler than your usual other puck style of cameras without a fan. But these also is pretty cool about Player One is that you can purchase ACS or these active cooling system fans which are kind of a nice little upgrade. But if you don't want to spend the extra money on getting a full tech cooled camera. Now, when it comes to also if uncooled is better or anything like that, we play a little bit of devil's advocate. Um, that saying that cooled isn't always the answer. When you're doing planetary or lunar, we've talked about that a little bit already. When you're shooting 100 frames a second, the sensor doesn't have time to build up any thermal noise. So an uncooled camera, it's cheaper and it's easier, on your mount. Guiding, we talked about guiding, since guide stars are usually bright and exposure only like a couple seconds, 1 to 3 seconds. A cooled camera is overkill. You don't need that. And it adds unnecessary weight to your OTA. So using a smaller uncooled camera is the way to go. And we can even discuss at what focal length or exposure time does the cooled, or they call the cool tax, become worth it for a beginner. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Cool. So the cool tax is what we call, some people call it a cool tax. Is basically it's a term that signifies a big jump in price that you pay for a dedicated astrophotography camera once you add on that cooling system. Is basically the admission fee to get into really more serious deep sky imaging. So there's that price gap when you're looking at cameras with this exact same sensor. Cool tax is usually going to add on 300 to 500 bucks to the price tag. So if you've got a 533 sensor, um, a standard planetary may cost you 500 to 600 bucks. But the moment you add on that pro cooling version, the price is going to jump up a few more 100 bucks, maybe to $800 to $900. So just think about that. So it's not just, what you're paying for is not just that chip. You're paying for that larger sealed chamber to prevent frost. You got a heat sink in there, you got internal fans, and you got more sophisticated power management so you can hold that temperature um, that you set so you can get that dark library matching your lights. But why is it called a tax? It kind of feels like a tax because unless other than like buying a bigger, better mount or anything like that, um, cooling doesn't help you, technically to see more, but it does stop the heat, from hiding where what you've already captured, right? But there's also the hidden benefit. This quote unquote tax does pay for itself in time. Without regulated cooling, you have to spend valuable time imaging, you know, dark frames every single night to match that ambient temperature. Paying this a little extra for a cooled camera, you can build a dark library once and you can use it for months. So, but is it always worth it? Well, if you're against this, if you're against that extra money, you may say if you're a beginner on a budget, and maybe if you're even doing more planetary work, and no, you shouldn't. You don't need it. You can better spend that money on filter or a better focal reducer, things like that, if you're not doing DSO or deep sky imaging. But if you're doing narrowband, and especially like if you're in a hot place like I am here in Georgia, the tax is the tax, and it is pretty much mandatory because without it, your thermal noise is going to be a lot higher than your alpha, um, and your O3 signals. So, which path should you take? When you want to decide between these, you have to ask yourself, what's your primary? You would choose uncooled if you're primarily a planetary, solar, or lunar imager. You need those high frame rates in that lightweight profile of cameras like the Saturn or the Altair 533 because they're really fast as far as their speed, their frames per second speed. Now, on the other side, you would go with a cooled camera if you are like me, more focused on deep sky, and you're more of a deep sky enthusiast chasing nebulae and galaxies. And if you want to use narrowband filters and you want the luxury of that permanent dark library, paying that, like I said, that cool tax on a camera like the Aries C or like we see here, the Zeus, is going to be the best investment you're going to be able to make for your data. So there you go. That's the reasons. So to go between cooled and uncooled. You got any questions?
I liked it.
Oh, thanks, bro.
I liked it, and I like how you showed a lot of those purple cameras.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
I like the
Yeah.
cameras.
Yeah, of course I was on mute the whole time. I'm talking.
Oh, of course you are.
What was I gonna? There was something I was gonna say. You were talking about. Altair makes a couple cameras that are just strictly fan cooled as well. I think they have 2 or 3 versions of cameras that no Peltier cooler, no Pro, but they're just fan cooled. But they're bigger body. They do have a nice heat sink, the fan, and they offer the DDR3 buffer. And so they're kind of so. And you can save a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you can.
Absolutely.
You definitely can. So it's just a matter of pick your poison. Which one do you like better? Do you like shooting DSOs, or do you like, going fast and doing EAA or planetary or lunar or stellar?
I mean, I think one of my first cameras was the Altair 183 color uncooled. It's just fan cooled.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked.
Yeah. Yeah, and then to get started, and those don't bad.
If you're taking images, you got to take darks right away as soon as you're done.
Yep.
You want to make sure you're getting your darks exactly the same temp, and that was very important on the 183. You had to take darks.
You have to take darks, and you have to take your flats because those starburst. Yep. That amp glow is rough on the 183.
Oh man, it's like a supernova.
Yeah,
it is.
It's bad, but you know what? It didn't really matter. You just take those darks and it's all gone.
Yep, and the 183 had very small pixels, and I've seen some amazing.
Oh yeah, actually no, my dad was taking the 2600. I'm trying to think. I had the 183 on the red cat, but I don't use that a lot. I might sell it because I don't use it. I don't use it. I don't use I like the 400. I like the FRA 400. And even though there's 150 millimeters of focal length difference there, I like the field of view of the 400. I think it's nice. And even if I wanted to, I could go down to 3.9. I could buy a reducer and still get 250 if I wanted to.
That's true.
You know, so
Yeah.
I mean, I think my next scope, I think maybe my next project might be like a what is it, the ASCAR, the lenses, like either the what is it, the 180 or the 235 or something like that, you know, something small like that, really wide field.
There you go.
I think that's going to be the next thing for me. We'll see. Maybe we'll throw that on the I did finally. So you know what? On a side note, before we go to the next topic, I finished and cropped all the data for the Medusa Nebula.
Okay.
So that will be up probably tomorrow. I had to do it separately. I had to do all broadband and all. There was so much data. I did all the broadband first, and then the narrowband separate, and then I registered them all to the HA, and I did that, and I cropped it down to kind of, because there's a lot of empty space around the Medusa Nebula. There's a lot of empty stuff with not a lot of stuff going on. It's a nice star field and all that, but you know what? If you want the Medusa, it does have a nice little swoopy kind of end to it. You know, with the bottom of the Medusa Nebula. You know, it's like
it's nice that because you got that oxygen in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of S2 in the Medusa. Holy cow! I thought it was my HA when I looked at it first. I was like, oh my god, what is this? And
yeah, that S2 is going to give you a lot of detail.
Yeah, it's gonna be unbelievable. So I mean, so I will be putting that. So I also have a luminance too in there. I have about a couple hours of luminance in there. I mean, throw it in there and see what you get. But I got luminance, RGB, HA, S203. So I got all of them, and it's gonna be about 50 hours worth added all together. So yeah, no, it should be up. You know what? I might even be able to put it up tonight for you, Tom. So let's take a look at that. But before we go any further, it's 9:07. I don't want to run over time here because you know what? I got nothing accomplished today, and it's been my day off. And you know, I've been on the phone all day, and it's just
Thursdays were your day off.
I switched them to Wednesdays. So
there you go.
Yeah, so I'm off on Wednesdays now. Choice only. I just needed to kind of do some things on Wednesdays. You know, the show's on Wednesday. Thursday, yeah, I can get rid of the show hangover, but you know, it's not like it's not necessary. You know, but what are you gonna do? So,
yeah.
So,
what you gonna jump into yours now?
Oh, why you want to do something?
Jump into yours now? No, real quick. There was a couple of things. And you know, I don't know how many people have seen. I mean, I'm sure I've gotten emails and stuff like that. I know we're not a dealer or anything like that. But there's a new mount that hit the street.
What the 7?
7.
Yeah, the AM7.
It's been about a week.
Yeah. You know what? You know how good ZWO is. You know how good they are. They finally came out with a 44-pound mount without counterweights after freaking 3.5 years of this stuff being out there. Come on, guys, you are so behind the eight ball.
So that's what I'm saying. So it begs the question: when is the 200i gonna hit?
Oh, who knows?
When's the wave 200i gonna hit?
Who knows?
And then I'm gonna have buyer's remorse because then it'd be like, son of a.
So far, I don't think there's a plan. As far as I know, I haven't heard of a plan for that. It would surprise me if they haven't come out with it. But you know, ZW.
It would surprise you, or it wouldn't.
It would not surprise me if they came out with a 200. Yeah. But I mean, we'll see. I hope it will have a little bit more bells and whistles, other than that. You know, that the holy grail of the 44-pound holy grail that you know that everybody seems to go by. But it's kind, you know. Yeah, it came out a couple. I got all the emails from Agena and High Point. Oh yeah, the AM7. I said, oh cool. Let me see what it is.
It came out maybe a little bit about a week
Yeah, I was like, let me see what it is. Let me look at it.
Week.
I was like, yeah, it's another 44-pound mount. Welcome to the club, guys. It's like closing.
Yeah. What took you so long?
Pegasus has a new, right? A new Nix, don't they?
They do?
No, that's what I'm aware of.
Nix.
You got the 88 and the 101.
No, I saw a different.
Do they? Because I didn't get a dealer alert on it.
I've seen something about it.
I know they have the flat panel that they came out with. I'm going to look at it right now.
No,
I saw
just
something
the 88 and the
about it.
101 on their website.
Maybe they haven't released it yet, but
Who knows? No, it's not out. It's not on their website yet, though, man. But you know what this basically means. It's all about competition and stuff like that, and eventually we are going to see more and more. Now, Ioptron's they've had theirs out for a while.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they've had the 69
ZWO, it's
out.
like, what are you waiting for? Yeah, they've had the 69 out for almost a year now. Over a year. They've had different iterations. They've had this sucker out for like 2 years, maybe 3 years. They've had this the HAE 69 out. So yeah, it's like, welcome to the party, pal. What took you so long?
People are saying that Nix 120 is coming.
120, that's it. Yeah.
Soon to be released. So I have not heard.
Okay.
Any peeps. So where are you guys getting your information from? Because apparently I am not in the know. So and I'm gonna hurt somebody. It must be set out.
Boy.
Maybe it was set out in Europe or something, and the Europeans got to it before we did. I don't know, but
Nix 120, 12 kilogram payload capacity.
12 kilogram. That's only 25 pounds.
No,
that's nothing.
They're going backwards. Why are they calling it the 120? Nix 120 in production.
It was posted on their.
Oh, the mount weight is approximately 100.
Oh, okay. The mount weight. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's on their website. It's on their Facebook page. It looks like.
Yeah, I think that's where I saw it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
It looks considerably bigger than the 101.
It does. It looks. Yes, people are saying
at 100 some buck, at 120 weight.
Yeah, people are saying that it's going to be 66, like an HAE 69, 66 pounds without counterweight.
Wow.
Yep. Wow. So, and that's a guess. It looks like. So, that's on Pegasus Astro's Facebook page. So, am I following them? I'm not even following them. Now I am. There we go.
The picture looks good.
Yeah, it looks pretty intense.
That's Hercules. That is a Herculean beast. My God.
It looks pretty sexy.
That is crazy.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you everybody for the input. Appreciate it on that. Because I had no idea. It looks like it's in production. So, well, let's take that word out, in production, right?
It'll be available next Christmas.
if you're lucky.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, because you take a look at the Smart Eye, right?
Oh yeah.
The Smart Eye, I guess they didn't think it was going to be a big kind of response, and it was. And I've had a Smart Eye on orders since March last year.
Oh my God.
This poor guy ordered one at NEAF last year, and NEAF's coming up again. I said, well, are you going to have it for this year's NEAF? I said, I don't know. I don't know.
If not, we'll walk over to their booth and take that one and give it to
my
you.
God. I'm gonna tell him to bring me an extra one because I gotta give this kid one. This kid is such an, I don't want to say his name. He's such a nice kid. He keeps on coming to my booth every year. He buys something every year. And you know
Young
who
kid?
you are if you're watching. Yeah, young kid, you know.
About.
And he comes
I know
in
what you're
every
talking about.
year and he buys something. He said, "Are you gonna have it?" I said, "Yeah, I should have it in a couple of months." I feel so bad. And I was like, it's coming up on a year since I placed the order for him. And
Jeez.
yeah. So
Wow. But one thing about the Nix 120, the step motor size, 23.
what happened?
That's the step motor size.
Yeah.
NEMA step motor size,
Yeah.
23. That's a good, that's beefy.
Yeah.
You know, because most of them are like what, 17 to 20?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So,
that like
yeah.
the Warp Astron, they had the 17 and the 20. But that,
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Their step size. Yeah.
But,
for their step motors.
They don't. Yeah, well, Warp Astron doesn't use stepper
No.
direct.
It's direct.
They used what? Okay.
Direct
that's
static.
Gotcha.
That's yeah, I remember.
All right.
Dan will soon.
Sorry,
be
man. I didn't mean to take up too much of your time
would I-
because I know
why-
you've got your stuff.
Why would I be an ex-Pegasus seat dealer? Because they didn't tell me.
Because they didn't tell you.
They didn't tell you. They
It
broke
looks like
up
they
with
didn't
you.
tell
You had to get
anybody. But you know,
Dear
and it-
Dear John, your Dear
and-
John letters in the mail.
and
They
you know,
told all their fans.
hey, in all fairness, I am the only telescope retailer in the world, as far as I'm concerned, that does a live TV show twice a week. And sometimes you just get caught with your pants down. I'm sorry. That's what happens.
Yeah.
So
That's
when
what
they
happens,
start
yeah.
telling you stuff that I guarantee you the dealers aren't supposed to tell you anything until it came out when they put the word out. But I haven't heard anything. But yeah, so we will see. We will see when it comes out. I can't expect the price to be anything less than like $5,000 in the US.
Probably not.
Barring any tariff changes, because if the tariffs change, then maybe the price might go down a little bit on certain things, but maybe not. So we'll just have to see.
Look at my face. Really?
Hey, they went down a little bit after the last tariff situation. They went down a little bit, a little bit.
Scope.
All right, yeah. So there we go. So let's talk about some. We'll do this really quick because I know it's like 9:20 now, and let's just do this real quick. We're going to talk about some main specs of the camera. The first thing I want to talk about is quantum efficiency, right? And I'm going to do this kind of really quick. So the first things you should do, actually, the first thing you should really do is, before we even get into this, remember when you used to go into the shops and buy your digital camera, and what's the first thing you would ask when you bought a digital camera? What spec would you ask about when you're buying a digital camera? What spec? Not even astronomy, just any digital camera.
Megapixels.
Megapixels, right?
Megapixels.
How many megapixels are there, right? Yeah. Don't do that with astronomy. Everything's got 1.9, 2 million, 4 million pixels. I mean, don't worry about megapixels anymore. Stop buying because of that, because it doesn't make a damn bit of difference. But here are some specs that actually really make a difference in your camera. And like the first one I said is the quantum efficiency, right? So quantum efficiency, pretty much quantum efficiency, what the basic kind of definition would be is how efficiently the sensor turns your analog photons into digital signal, right? And everything drops in to a percentage. So I have 91% quantum efficiency. I have over 97, or I have, if you're in the CCD land, your quantum efficiency of 50% was pretty darn good. Not anymore. And what that really means is, whatever that percentage is, that's your usable data, right? That's your usable data. You're getting all that signal. So you're getting 91, 90%, whatever. When you were when I had my SBIG 8300, right? I believe that it was 54% quantum efficiency. So what that means basically, for every picture I took, I would have to take 2 pictures to get up to the quantum efficiency of today's cameras.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because half of the data basically is being thrown in the garbage. It's being thrown in the garbage. It doesn't mean a thing. So make sure, quantum efficiency, believe it or not, eventually, in my opinion, quantum efficiency, the spec itself, is going to go, it's going to be so high on all these chips that it's going to go out the window. Just like, there are certain other specs, just like megapixels is got in the way of the Dodo, right? So I think that's the next one that's going to be on the chopping block, but it still means something as far as not everyone is at 100%, right? Not even one, I think, is at 100%. So eventually we'll get there, but we're not there. QE is great. And if you're over 90, 95%, some kind of things, you know what? It matters a lot, but it doesn't replace going to a dark sky site. It doesn't replace good guiding. It doesn't replace all this stuff that you're going to need to make a good picture. So QE helps you get the signal in, but dark skies, right? Dark skies, you go to a border one sky and the noise that is not there is amazing. And the detail that you get in such a quicker time, just because it's dark, you're not fighting that light pollution, or you're not fighting bad balancing, that kind of stuff. So make sure that you got to have a balance of both, right? So that being said, let's get to we hit it a little bit. We spoke a little bit about pixel size tonight. We said small pixels, big pixels, all this kind of stuff. Well, I'm going to take this pixel size into another way of over and under sampling, right? So pixel size, as far as image scale, is how you can tell whether you're over or under sampling. So normally, undersampling, what you'll see, and a telltale sale of undersampling, is stars that kind of look like this. Okay? If you have blocky stars, that's a problem. That means you're undersampling. You're not getting enough data in the pixels in order to make a rounded star, or your pixels are too big that you're getting blocky stars, right? So those are a couple of things you want to take a look into. When you're oversampling, then you're going to get bloated, kind of largish kind of stars. So you're definitely going to want to take a look at your pixel size. And the best way to kind of go and kind of get rid of that over and under sampling is go to a site similar or to astronomy.tools, right? You can put your telescope in, you can put your pixel size or your camera in, which will know your pixel size, and then it'll find out your image scale. And based on that image scale at arc seconds per pixel, that's when you're over and under sampling. So you want to be somewhere between 0.66, like 2/3 of a pixel, to 2, depending on your seeing, of course, because seeing makes a big deal with your image scale. If you have crappy seeing, you're going to be to one side or the other, depending on what kind of imaging rig you have. So bigger pixels, right? Often higher, a little bit more sensitivity. It's a lot more forgiving when it comes down to guiding and seeing, because you got these bigger pixels. You can kind of, you're fitting less, but you also not getting the resolution that you would get at the same focal length if you had smaller pixels. So just imagine that you had, I don't want to show that piece of paper, but let's say you had a piece of paper like this, right? And this was split up into 4, and this only has 4 pixels, right? So you're only going to have enough information to fill this 4 pixels. Now imagine if you had 4 times the pixels in the same space, you're able to resolve all these smaller details and that kind of stuff. So it's real important to kind of go to a site like astronomy.tools and see if your camera matches up well to your focal length. Also, don't forget to put in your Barlow reducer, all that kind of stuff, because that makes a difference, right? More detail. Yes. All right. So then chip size. All right. So there's a couple things that you kind of want to do. Think about what kind of field of view you kind of want, because that really is going to dictate what kind of chip size you have and what focal length. And you could go to the same aforementioned website, astronomy.tools, to find out if an object will fit given your sensor size or camera, right? And your focal length of your scope with included reducers or Barlows or whatever you might have in your image train. So the chip size is going to directly affect what you could be able to fit on your camera, right? What can you fit on the chip? So in I don't know, let's say my FRA 400, if I put a 533 on there, probably not going to fit, the Andromeda Galaxy or something big like the horse head all the way across, because you're not going to be able to fit it, right? So you might need a bigger chip size or a reducer one way or the other. You got to change your field of view some way, right? So you can get an APS-C chip, an APS-H chip, or a full frame chip. You can get all these different size chips, and going down even further to a 533, a micro 4/3, and so on, going the other way. You want to make sure that you get the right camera matched for your object that you're seeing. So again, go to either Blackwater Skies, astronomy.tools, put an object in, and then you'll be able to see what you could fit in with that scope, with that camera. I think that's really important. So take a look, keep in mind when you're buying a camera that you have that. Now, nothing's saying that you can't do something called a mosaic, right? And basically what a mosaic is you're taking a number of subs at different parts of the sky and stitching them together in order to make a nice, solid, big picture. For most regular refractors, you're not going to be able to fit something like Barnard's loop, right? You're not going to be able to fit it without doing a mosaic. You're going to have to kind of do certain things, or the flip side of it, get a was it the Pancake 50 or something, a 50 millimeter lens, something like that, in order, or the 35, something with a really wide field of view in order to catch it all. But then what's going to happen? You're not going to be able to resolve the little details in there. Mosaic in this case might suit better if you want well-resolved small details. Make sense? Yeah. All right, cool. What time we got? 9:30. Okay. So the last thing that we're going to talk about is something called full well capacity. Okay. Now, full well capacity doesn't mean, again, as much as it used to mean. Back in the day, we had a thing called blooming. And with especially inherent in CCD cameras, what blooming was that your electron has a well, let's say a bowl in it, right? And that bowl gets filled with electrons, and those electrons are your data, right? And just like water, once the well fills up, what's going to happen? Well, the water's going to come over the side and hit the ground and roll to the lowest remaining part, wherever it goes. And that's what happened with the electrons with older CCD cameras, was that your data would spill out into other pixels and make this nice fake star streak all across your picture. And then they came out with something called anti-blooming cameras and stuff like that, where they kind of figured things out. But that's what the well is. It's how many electrons a pixel can hold before it saturates or it blows out. Brighter stars, like some like On the Tack, like Saturn, like a couple other ones out there, really serious, really bright stars tend to blow out very, very quickly if you sit there and take long-term exposures. You know, a lot of wells now, I've seen some where it's 50,000, 60,000 electron, a lot of deep well depth. So it kind of is not as imperative to look at this a lot. But you'll sit there if all of a sudden all of your stars, if there should be some blue stars in there and they're all white, you're blowing them out. You're blowing out your stars. Your exposure's too long. Your gain's too high. Something's going on that you're just you have so much data that's blowing out all the colors. So make sure that you're doing that. That's something to check into. What else? So just to really kind of wrap everything up, it's 9:30. Quantum efficiency, don't forget, it's how efficient you grab your analog and convert it to digital. Pixel size helps you with your resolution. Chip size is going to show you how wide your field of view is. And you know what, not for nothing, the bigger the chip, the more tilt and the more aberrations in your optical train will start to show, right? So if you have a smaller chip and you're just shooting out the center and you're not getting the size and you're not taking the full image circle of your scope, you may not see any tilt or issues in your image train. If you get a bigger chip, you may start to see that. And full well, again, is how much brightness you can hold before the stars get burnt out. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I didn't have a nice kind of PowerPoint. Maybe next time if I, get stuff done during the day next time. But that's pretty much that. There's a lot more specs involved, but I think these four were one of the ones where we got a lot of more questions about. So I just wanted to go over them real quick. So that being said,
okay,
I'm finished.
Sure. Nicely done, bro.
And I didn't make myself I didn't make Leon larger. I forgot. What are you gonna do?
Nice.
What are you gonna do?
Hey, yeah, they're making fun of me. Dan uses a reducer. Nah. Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm never using a reducer. I know.
No.
Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it. Tom, thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, like CCD. Beautiful, awesome. So, what else?
How do you guys? I want to know. I want to know, how does the viewer membership? Our viewers, people in the chat. What do you think of how we've been doing this format for the past 2-3 weeks? I'm be kind of curious to get any feedback. Drop a comment or anything like that. Let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be very curious to know.
And be honest. If we suck, let us know. If we're good, let us know. I mean, we don't get nobody gets better by blowing smoke up your right. You know what I'm saying? So just tell us how it is.
Exactly. Absolutely right.
Thank you, Corn. Appreciate it, man. Proud of you too, man.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So what? So not for nothing. SFRO has been closed for like 5 days in a row. It's been clear the last 2. They have too much ice on the roofs that they don't want to open them.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So they're waiting for the ice to come down on the roof. There's too much of a danger of ice coming down off the roof that they don't want to have any ice slam on anyone's scope. It looks like, I think, but
Gotcha. Damn. Okay. Um. So real quick, I don't know how much do you use um you know the loop the loop triggers when it comes to nights like this,
what do you mean?
when you have when you're getting closer to full moon and you're at 70%, and do you use like the moon angle um setting or anything like that? Have you ever used the moon angle setting?
Well, I
If
use
you set up,
I use the target
'cause I
scheduler.
started using it and it's pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah, I use the target, and I do use the it's called moon avoidance settings.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I only have certain filters set. I have all my broadband set. Moon must be down.
Mhm.
Moon must be down. For my narrow band, I think I have got to be 50 degrees away. The target's got to be 50 degrees away from the moon in order to start
Yep.
shooting. HA and S2 and O3 needs to be moon down.
Okay. Okay. So that's how you do yours.
Yeah,
Alright.
that's pretty much how I do it. If I remember my settings correctly, I think it was 50 degrees. So
Okay.
basically, if the moon's there, the object's got to be like there. You know what I mean? So it's got to be
Yeah.
far away from the moon in order for
Even when you're using high narrow band, high band, filters, like, or low band rather, like 3 nanometer.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I still just as a best practice. Definitely want to do. You don't want to do O3 when the moon's out, when the moon's full. You don't want to do
no,
O3.
no.
But even with HA and S2, and when you're dealing with Border 1 skies and the moon, when it's up, it's like a big freaking, million candle watt light bulb out there. I mean, it's really crazy. It's not like in New York where it's a full moon, you don't even know it's up. You know what I mean? Because of all the light pollution. You don't even, you see it, but you're like, oh yeah, it's there. And when you're in a Border 1 sky and the full moon light will actually throw your shadow on the ground. That's how kind of crazy it is. So
Yeah. Okay. Because I'm tinkering around right now with I'm doing HA right now. Right.
okay.
Um, but see me, I'm in a Bortle 4. So maybe it's not as bad as it would be if I was at a Bortle 1, but still. But now I'm going to actually see about S2. See how I'm definitely not going to do O3.
No, you
O3
could get
is
away
gonna
with
be
S2 depending on, where the object
but I
is.
may be able to get away with S2. Yeah, because I'm actually doing NGC 2269 or 39, which is it's the star cluster inside the Rosette Nebula.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha.
So that's what I'm working on right now, and just taking learning things bit by bit as I go along, understanding okay, the moon angles, how to set things up to say, okay, don't do this or don't do that when it's at this certain angle or anything like that. I'm just seeing that it's quite interesting stuff.
Yeah.
That you can do with Nina that you can't do with a lot of other acquisition software, or like say even with the ASI Air or with the Celavita. You can't do, they don't have those features. So it's and when there's a night like this, especially at least right here, where I've got a clear night, wind is relatively low, it's like the hell with the moon. Sometimes I'm
Yeah.
like, screw the moon. I want to image.
I'm imaging.
So
I
I'm
hear you.
imaging. So it's just you just have to take those things into consideration. And like I said, this loop until if it's if the target's at a certain altitude, or if the moon is a certain distance away from your target. Yeah, I think it's pretty.
Yeah, I'll do loop until the target is above my horizon. I'll do loop until a certain time when I'm home. When I'm home, you know what I mean. So,
Yeah.
I'll do the same thing, and just let it run. But I mean, there are certain like
Right now,
in New York,
30 degrees.
in New York, when I imaged my 3 nanometer filters, I'll be dead honest with you. I mean, I will image every single night the moon is out if it's clear, because we have so many clear. We have so many nights that are not clear in New York.
Yeah.
So you got to take the clear nights where you could get them. However, I'll make really, really good decisions on where I'm shooting and what filter I'm using. I will still not do
Yeah.
O3, even if I had 40 hours of HA on an object in New York, and the moon was out and I'm on a project. I'll just take more HA and S2. I'll wait for the O3 to come around.
Gotcha.
But
I know.
oh yeah, rock and roll. Yeah, I heard that.
Duff was
Tom.
asking, can you talk about your Starfront experiences over the year?
Yeah, absolutely.
One meeting. Yeah. So maybe one time, you can.
Yeah, I could do a little Starfront, overview. Absolutely.
Tom saying Stella V is coming out with really nice firmware upgrade. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I think that's coming out end of first quarter, if I heard right. So that should be within the next month or so.
Right.
Yep, it is. It's
Okay.
being beta tested. Yep.
Nice.
So we shall see. We shall see what we shall see. I'm hoping. I want to get mine all set up. I want to get one set up. But all right. So it's 9:41.
Well, I think that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I own this 152. It's time to go have a drink.
Yep.
And let's do final thoughts.
Yeah, no. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Definitely let us know about, how we're doing here with the content, these presentations, stuff like that, trying to keep it, more focused, and that's, we're off of rails every once in a while, but try to keep it more focused and stuff like that and more subject focused. So definitely let us know how we're doing and give us your thoughts. We really appreciate it.
Dave, Scott.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out. Hopefully, like I said, I don't do any planetary. Hopefully, I gave you a little insight on what kind of cameras to use. Obviously, I mean, I have a couple cameras that I have, and one of these days I'll dabble into it. It's just I could do lunar and solar probably. Obviously, to do solar, I'd have to get a special filter for my telescopes or get a solar scope. But planetary, lunar's not a problem, but planetary, I don't have the reach yet. I mean, unless I put a Barlow on the 127. Yeah, and I mean, I could. I mean, that's still it's going to get me to just only about 1900 millimeters.
I'd love to put my 9.25 up, over the next couple of days, just to put it once the snow disappears and the warm weather comes back.
Yeah, I mean, I figured, if I put a Barlow on that 127, I could probably do.
Yeah, you could.
Anything other than that, I don't know if I.
2x Barlow would be, you'd be at like what, f14.
1900.
Yeah. That's not horrible. It's like an 8-inch.
Yeah, a little less, but yeah.
That's all right.
But an 8-inch, you can put a 2 times Barlow on, and you'll be at 4,000.
Exactly.
At f20.
Yeah, exactly. Now you're
But
talking.
it's a planet. It's so damn bright. So
Yeah, well, you need to be at F20. I mean, some are even
Yeah.
shooting higher than that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I never did. I never could figure out. I guess I never could figure out how to get the planet on ship without kind of screwing it up with the planet. I could never figure it out. I tried, and I would do like parfocal rings, and I'd be doing all this kind of stuff to kind of do it. And now I'm sure there's an easier way to do it, but I'm just like, I don't have the time or the effort. I'll just do my deep sky and have a nice day. It's kind of
Yeah.
like golf,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Kind of like golf, right?
Exactly.
I'm not gonna bother practicing my driver because I'm only using it a couple times. I'll practice my putter and my freaking wedge,
Those
because
are the best things to practice. That's what you
that
practice with most.
that's it.
But you definitely should practice your driver too. Because
Nah, I'll
being
just use
down,
I'll
being
use my
down the
three
middle of the
iron.
fairway, being
I'll
down
use
the
my three iron.
middle of the fairway helps.
Yeah. I'll use my 3 iron, man. I slice that wedge too. I slice that. I have an 8.5 degree freaking driver that I used to use, and I was able to hit that 1 year, and then I was like, screw this, I'm going to 10.5 again. But
Jose's asking, have you guys ever had a planetary imaging contest? Not strictly planetary, no.
we could do that.
Well, we've had
monthly
planetary
imaging
images
contest.
win the contest.
We've had, win the contest, yes.
Think-
But we've never had something strictly planetary, no.
I think Mitch Duke won one, I
Yeah,
think.
he is one. Yeah.
Yeah, he won for Saturn. Yeah, he
Yep.
won for Saturn.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So,
All right. I guess that we're going to wrap it up.
Yep.
So really appreciate everybody hanging out, and hopefully you folks there in the chat or on replay who are watching us, going to watch this video, or hopefully take something away from these little nuggets of information that we try to share out here. But yeah, really appreciate everybody's time. Look forward to Friday. We are at Hump Day, so looking forward to Friday.
Yep.
And hope to see everybody here. So thanks again. And
Is Friday a Zoom?
Keep imaging.
Is Friday a Zoom?
Last week
Friday
was
last week was Zoom. Last week was Zoom.
Oh yeah, 2 and 4. Yeah, there we go. We have 5 Fridays this month.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Have a great night. And as always, keep imaging, keep educating, and clear skies. We will see you all on Friday.
Nice.
Take care. Peace.
If I can find the button, I'll be all right. There you go.